Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2023. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today, which is interesting. So before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is the first link in the description box below. Second link is to the 6-month overviews. I've been talking about those for months now. If you hadn't had a chance to check them out, they are considerably reduced now, so feel free to avail yourself of that link if that's something you're interested in. The third link is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on Circle. It's full, chock full of really outstanding human beings talking about all sorts of interesting things, and you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. So if that's something of interest to you, you know what to do with that. So let's have a look, Leo, and see what is going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for you, Leo, please? Recent past, we have the 7 of Cups. What about current energy for Leo, please? We have 2. We have the 4 of Cups and the 8 of Pentacles. And what's coming towards Leo, please? Thank you. We have the 5 of Pentacles. Right, don't panic too much. We've got the World card at the bottom of the deck. Let's just flip this around so I can complain. I've actually got the camera in the right place for a change. There we are. So, World card is at the bottom of the deck there. So we have endings, we have completion. We have, just had last month a really quite powerful solar eclipse. And whilst that is very much concerned with the new and bringing about new beginnings, there will be a corresponding, number of endings that go with that, because you cannot have one without the other. So it could well be that we have some tying up going on here. But let's have a look at these, get some clarifiers out. How about 7 of Cups? 7 of Cups, please. We have the Page of Cups. And we have the 7 of Wands in reverse. How about this? 4 of Cups and 8 of Pentacles. King of Pentacles. Ace of Swords. And the 2 of Pentacles. And what about this 5 of Pentacles here, please? 2 cards. We have the 8 of Cups and we have the 10 of Pentacles. Right, the Empress is at the bottom of this deck here. Very much concerned with the cultivation of the new, because she's often depicted as pregnant, and symbolically speaking, that is indicative of new starts, new beginnings of some way or another, some sort of creation of something new that is getting ready to come out into the world. It could be something related to your creativity. It could be something practical that you're working on, and certainly there are indications that it could be that. Either way, we have something ending this month so that something new can begin, or something ending so that the process of bringing about the new can be in some way facilitated. There's a finite amount of space in one's life for things and experiences and all that sort of stuff, and it's necessary to clear out what is old, what is no longer serving you, in order that be in some way, the space is created for those things to come through. So, something to keep an eye on. Now, when we come to the main cards that we have here, well, actually not even the main cards, every single one of these cards is minor arcana. And to be clear about that, if we think about the major arcana in terms of, big universal energies that are happening at us, such as here with the World and the Empress card, then the minor arcana is about our responses to them, what we do to facilitate the process, what we do to deal with what is coming up. To the extent that what we have here in the month of May is very much centered around what it is that you do and how you are approaching it, Leo. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. It could be that April has had all manner of interesting surprises for you with that solar eclipse. Mercury is now in retrograde. There are a couple of other things that are going on which escape me at the moment. And so we could what could well be happening here in May is how we reorder ourselves in light of what has cropped up for us in April. Perhaps how we reassess what is important, whether it be priorities or circumstance, events, whatever. But let's have a look here. So we've got the Seven of Cups, and that is a card of emotional confusion. In some ways it's emotional illusion too. But it's the number of, from a numerological perspective, 7 is the number of the seeker. You've got 2 appearing in quick succession with each other. Now, that first 7 of Cups could suggest that you have been in your feelings about a lot of things, and perhaps those feelings have been confusing. There are things that have come up that require a little bit of processing. That would certainly be possible. But it could also be that it's been difficult to work out how you're supposed to feel about something. Now, this doesn't mean it necessarily has to be a bad thing. I mean, it could be a really very good thing. And then the question would be, are you going to allow yourself to trust whatever that is? There's some sort of new doorway that's been opened here to your emotions, and a corresponding amount of challenges that have come up with it that require you to sort of get your head around them a little bit. We've got the Page of Cups here with the 7 of Wands in reverse. And the Page of Cups for me is about a new emotional approach to something. Now, when we're talking about opening doors, where there are consequences of things, whether they are very, very good or very, very bad, it doesn't really matter. I mean, what matters is the way that you choose to respond to it. And I think that there's a doorway here that you've been asked to walk through that possibly might have shown you something about yourself. They might have shown you something about your environment, your response to your environment, perhaps what it is that you're trying to achieve for yourself at this point, and maybe even relationships and things like that. It feels like quite a contemplative energy, Leo, if I'm honest. And of course we are in Mercury retrograde at the moment, which is not something to be horrified about. I mean, I see people getting very shrill about it. But the purpose of the retrograde energy, particularly with Mercury in retrograde, is to stop and take stock. Pay attention to things, whether that is your emotional stuff, whether it's your finances sometimes, the rules of surviving retrogrades generally is allow yourself to stop, allow yourself to take stock, allow yourself to the time to check that what you are doing is what is right for you. It's about paying attention to the details of things, and that seems to be very much centered for you around the emotions that you have related to whatever it is that you're doing at the moment, or have been doing at least. And this 7 of Wands in reverse for me talks about a dropping of the defenses. I mean, sometimes it's dropping the need to fight. I mean, for some of you it might quite clearly be quite simply be some sort of combative engagement that you've been a part of, maybe a legal case or something like that, where you don't need to fight anymore, right? Perhaps because it's come to some sort of conclusion, maybe a kind of conclusion that you weren't expecting, and so then there are consequences that flow from that. Let's have a look at this. What about that? We've got the 10 of Cups and we've got the 7 of Swords, so we've got another 7. And like I said, in numerology, this is about looking for answers. It is about pushing at the limits of things. The 7 is the number of the thinker, of the seeker, and what has been revealed to you. And it does feel like there's something vaguely revelatory that has come up for you in the last few weeks. Has more of a consequence of just, well, this allows you to do what you want to do, or this is going to stop you from doing what you want to do, so you're going to have to reorder yourself accordingly. It's more everything that goes along with it. I think there's a possibility that there has been some really deep introspection at this time. coming off the back of what you didn't expect. Now, the Ten of Cups talks to the well-being of the collective, and particularly the emotional well-being of the collective. And by collective, I mean the people that are around you that are important at this time. This could be your family, this could be your friends, probably less likely to be your work colleagues, I would say, but nevertheless, it is the people around you with whom there is some sort of emotional interdependence. Most likely family or friends that feel like family, you know. And we've got this Seven of Swords here, another 7. So we've got triple 7s now, which means that I think the level to which something has been revealed to you has been something that has taken a bit of time to process, I think. So the Seven of Swords can be, it actually can be a card of deception. But it's also the card of a calculated risk. And perhaps what is happening here is you recalculating the risk, recalculating the odds. Something that perhaps you've been very, very set on up until this point, suddenly up in the air and requiring reconsideration. We've got the Four of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck here, with the Five of Swords sitting beyond that, and the King of Swords beyond that too. So we've got something of value, or at least a perceived value thus far, that you're almost being asked to have another look at. Is it really that important? Where have you been thinking about this in the wrong way? Where have you got stuck in a particular kind of mindset? I mean, to go back to the example of perhaps some sort of legal thing that you've had going on, just as an example, realizing that you don't need to fight in this anymore, right? It all coming to some sort of rather spontaneous resolution, showing you where you have thought about this in the wrong way, perhaps where you've invested too much in this being the thing. Because with the King of Swords there, I don't want to say it's going back to the drawing board, because it isn't, but it is having to make a new set of decisions in light of what has been shown at this point. It's about thinking very clearly, thinking very objectively. And what's been shown to you is where your thinking has been anything but. I mean, we're back to this Seven of Cups. Well, rather than a stick to beat yourself with, Leo, I think that you're taking the time to be quiet, to be introspective, to work out what this means, and perhaps come up with some sort of revised plan. Now, we talked about this in terms of kind of practical stuff, and we do have the King of Pentacles and the Eight of Pentacles there, Two of Pentacles, Ten of Pentacles. There seems to be not necessarily a focus on the material, but certainly on logistics of things. Maybe what you've been trying to do is unrealistic, and there's a time frame here that is far more protracted than you're comfortable with. I could see how that would entirely be the case. But this recalculation of odds, recalculation of priorities, seems to be very strongly highlighted. And more importantly, your emotional response to it. So when we move into your current energy, we've got the Four of Cups and we've got the Eight of Pentacles. And the Four of Cups is a funny card. It can talk about boredom and apathy, in which case, there could be some boredom and apathy with what it is that you do for work at the moment. The Eight of Pentacles being work, or, more broadly, those things that we have mastery over. It could be that you've become thoroughly disillusioned with what it is that you work at. Maybe you're bored of it and ready for some sort of change. I think what's appearing here is some sort of understanding of a commitment that you have, a commitment that you thought you had, that maybe you're not quite as committed to. Right? That's what the realization is, because what's happening here is a direct result of what has gone on here. So it could well be a rejection of what it is that you have achieved a certain level of mastery over. You know, just kind of coming to the sudden realization that this balls the shit out of you and there's nowhere to go with it. And you want to do something different. The King of Pentacles with the Ace of Swords here, it feels to me like a somewhat of a flash, or like I could do something else. You know, the King of Pentacles for me talks about responsibility, and there's no doubt in my mind here at all that there is something that you are responsible for. And that could be material responsibility. But I think responsibility more generally, it's one that it's a feeling that I have with the King of Pentacles above all others, even though the other kings are also equally responsible in the way that they deal with, you know, with their suit. There's a heavier weight with this Taurian energy. And, you know, we're moving into Taurus season now. So this desire to be a builder, this desire to have an end goal that we are working towards is really, really strong, very strongly highlighted here. But the Ace of Swords is kind of like that new thought. It's a new way of doing things. Whenever the King of Pentacles is involved, there is an element of delayed gratification. And so maybe what you're starting to realise here is maybe that the changes you want to make aren't going to come in overnight. They've got to be done slowly. They've got to be done with an appropriate foundation. And furthermore, there are no shortcuts. Now, let's go across here. Okay. We've got the Two of Pentacles again and the Page of Swords. I do feel like logistics are a really strong aspect of what you are dealing with here at the moment. We've got the Two of Pentacles twice, so it's got that energy of juggling things around. And sometimes the juggling is between responsibilities, duties, and what you want to do in your downtime. Right? Maybe there isn't enough downtime for you to do what you want, but it's an investment in your future, and so there's no way of really getting around it. Whether or not you're bored of what it is that you're good at, what it is that you do for a job, whether it's testing your stamina at this point, Leo, which I think is entirely possible. And, you know, Leos have a fairly famous work ethic for things, but I think it's really important for Leos to have an end goal. It's very difficult for you to work for just the sake of working. There's something that you want to achieve. There's something out there, you know, an end point that you need to justify the amount of time that you are investing in something. Now, the combination of this Page of Swords and Ace of Swords, it's the epiphany energy. It's lights going on in your head. And right, okay, here's a thing that I can do. It does feel like you've needed to kind of rework. I know I keep going, these rewords keep coming up, and, you know, Mercury retrograde, it's to be expected. Some sort of plan has to be revised, but there's also some revision of work practices, of investment and commitment that you have believed that you have had up until this point. Now it's being tested a little bit. What about this Eight of Pentacles, please? Thank you. Yeah, so we've got the Ten of Swords and we've got the Eight of Pentacles again. Page of Pentacles is here at the bottom of the deck, which very much is leading me to a point of saying that something that you've been incredibly invested in up until this point is ending. Now, whether this is because it's being reworked or revised or reevaluated, I don't think that you can do things the way that you have been doing them up until this point. It feels much more detail oriented now. I think you've been moving on big picture up until this point, which is fine, but the focus seems to be narrowing dramatically. And in order for you to pull off what it is that you want to pull off, it's less about the big picture, it's less about the oversight, it's about rolling up your sleeves and getting really stuck in, Leo, and accepting on some level that this is not going to play out the way that you originally intended. For a lot of Leos, there have been really big changes that they've been wanting to pull off in their life, and I think that there's a certain element of transformation of you that is required in order to bring this about. I mean, notice again, we've got even more clarifiers out now, and it's all still minor arcana. It's about what you are doing. It's what you are thinking. It's about how you are responding. But it's certainly how you are contemplating what was the plan in favour of now what has to be the plan moving forwards. And I think it's somewhat different to what you had intended. Now, when we come into May, we've got the Five of Pentacles. Now, that's a pretty uncomfortable card for anyone, but for a Leo, it's pretty galling because it talks about poverty. It talks about loss or the fear thereof, like concern around the material, whether you've got enough money for something, whether you've got enough resources to be able to do what you need to do. But the Pentacles also talk about energetic currency. So, we've got questions about what you are investing yourself in here. We've got either a very real and present deficit of the amount of energy that you have to put into it, perhaps because you are bored, or perhaps because this is testing your stamina and there does not seem to be an end to it. Or we have a fear. We have a fear that you might not have enough, whether that's money, whether that's energy, whether that's the ability to just keep plodding even though there isn't that end result in the way that you envisaged it anywhere near on the horizon. But that Eight of Cups there talks about leaving behind what is no longer working for you. Now, that could be, notice that it's the Eight of Cups rather than, say, for example, the Six of Swords. It seems inextricably linked to this confusion over here and this new emotional approach that needs to be taken. I mean, I'm wondering if it is necessary for you, Leo, to capitulate in some way to something, right? We've got a recognition that the way that you have been thinking about something is perhaps, say, unrealistic, a bit illusory, a little bit too hopeful, a little bit too, lodged in fantasy, possibly, and that the whole thing needs revision. It needs an overhaul. What's being left behind is the emotional investment in doing it the way that you have been doing it. I think that's the way that I would put it. And it is something that is brought about by the prospect of you not having enough, a fear of not having enough, rather than the actual reality of it. Because we've got this Ten of Pentacles here. Now, ultimately what the King of Pentacles is trying to do is always produce a Ten of Pentacles, right? That's the point of him. Sorry, my dog just moved then. I absolutely shut myself. Could you just lie down, please? Thank you. Yes, that's the point of the King of Pentacles. He wants to oversee the Ace of Pentacles turning into the 10. And there are steps to this, and he understands all of these steps. But I feel like you're going to have to I was going to say accept some losses this month, but I'm not sure that that's accurate, Leo. I think that it is the perception of losses versus the reality of the time that it takes to get things done. I mean, certainly as we're in Mercury retrograde at the moment, when the kind of level of detail that is required during a retrograde means that everything takes 2 to 3 times longer than you think it should anyway. Well, I mean, that's probably just a true statement. Everything takes 2 to 3 times longer than you think it should. And then when you add a retrograde in there, maybe you're adding another 2 to 3 times longer with this. So, the compounded amount of time that it takes to get done what you want to do is definitely something that's going to have you kind of scratching your head and going, why did I even think that I'd be able to do this? Tell me about this. There's 2 cards here. We've got the Lovers card. We've got the 5 of Cups in reverse. Now, that's really interesting. Now, we've got 777s over there and then 555s over here. We've got 7 of Cups is out again and the 3 of Wands with the High Priestess here at the bottom of the deck. Like, whenever the Lovers comes out, right, it does talk about a choice. And we've got that idea of free will that is coming in here. And the question that I'm asking myself as I'm looking at these cards here is how much do you want it, Leo? Do you want it enough that you are willing to completely overhaul who you are and the way that you go about things in order to bring it about? You know, how much are you willing to work on faith? Because the 5 of Cups says that there has been at points, let's just turn this around here a little bit so I can explain it better. Yeah, this is a card of focusing on the wrong thing. Ultimately, that's what it talks about. And it can bring in grief and it can bring in resentment and it can bring in all those other things, right? But ultimately, it talks about the fact that you have been focusing on the wrong thing. When it shows up in the reverse, it's a stabilization of that energy. And so now we go from focusing on the wrong thing to focusing on the right thing, right? Really aligning ourselves with an energy of seeing the bigger picture and what is required from us on the micro level in order to make this big picture happen. You know, I think the fire signs are all actually quite visionary and they're very good at the big picture of stuff. This is what I want to do. Like, this is how I'm going to change my life and it's going to look like this and it's going to feel like this and I'm going to fucking love it. But sometimes what is missing is, like I said, that attention to detail. Sometimes where it is easy to lose your faith is where your stamina is tested and there's no end result. Not that you can see, not in the way that you want it. You know, the 7 of Cups, again, bringing in that kind of ephemeral, almost daydream energy about what's going on here. But the 3 of Wands says, well, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do to make things happen. You know, this is the only major arcana card on the table for you for May. And it's about what you choose to do, what you choose to look at, how you choose emotionally to process, how everything's kind of tumbled upside down. Because there's nothing here, there's nothing new, it feels to me, that is coming in here. What we've got is the slow unraveling of the way that you had chosen to do things up until this point that you are now recognizing is not going to lead to the result that you want. Or will lead to the result that you want, but it's going to take 4 times longer to do it than you thought it was. You know, and then the fact remains that it's not going to get any quicker if you just get upset about it. You know, it's like focus your energy where it needs to go. Get in alignment with what is being shown to you here. I mean, I feel inclined to refer to that idea that it's not about the end destination, it's about the journey. And I'm wondering if the journey has been eclipsed in favour of the end result for you. Got an attachment to outcomes thing going on here again, Leo. You know, it's about the process. And I think what's happening here in May is this World card. I think this is a tying up of things, you know, in order to and it's interesting, I think, that it's not the Fool that's here, it's the Empress. I mean, this is something that is already in motion. This is something that is already growing and you know, just like a fetus in the womb. But you can't rush it. You can't rush it. And there are many, many things that you can do in the here and now while this gestation is happening that makes it much, much easier when what is being gestated is ready to come out in the world. And I'm not sure that you're ready for that yet. So the universe is being all like, slow down. And I mean, this is a Saturnian card right here. Right? So it's a very Saturnian energy. Slow down, tidy up. You know, you've got a lot of things to be doing before you can even get close to contemplating experiencing that Ten of Pentacles. And however much energy you think that you've put in so far, however much attention to detail you think there has been so far, it needs more. And there's a certain amount of, I think I used the word capitulation earlier, but I don't know, it's not the right word. Submission to the process, submission to the changes that will happen within you as these things are coming about, but also a certain amount of dedication to the journey itself. It's like, pull your eye back from the horizon, from that place that you're trying to get to, and break everything down here and now. You know roughly where you're going, where you want to go. What are the steps that you need to take? And we kind of backtrack here a little bit. And if everything just aligned mystically for you tomorrow, would you be ready for what comes out from the Empress? Because I think the Tarot is saying that you're not. And that this isn't a judgment on you. This is not a criticism of you. It's saying that there are things going on in the journey that you're missing. Certainly as they relate to you. And certainly, in terms of where your point of focus should be. So this Five of Pentacles, I don't actually feel like is a terrible thing for you this month. I really don't. I think it's a focusing of the mind. I think it's a sharpening of the mind. It's a realization that you don't quite have in place what you need for whatever this is when this pops out. And this High Priestess card here, which does speak very much to the internal space. It's a deeply feminine card, and it talks about intuition and your knowing and all that kind of thing, right? It suggests to me that there's a process here that is not designed to be seen outside of you, but is designed to assist you getting to where you need to be by way of personal transformation, internal transformation, a shift of focus, if you allow it to be such. So I wish I could give you better news, Leo, just that everything that you want is going to fall into your lap, but it's not how you're built. It's not supposed to be like that for you. It's about hard work and dedication and stamina and getting to a point of being able to discern what is required from you in the here and now to get you to where you need to be. Right? You know better than anybody else that nothing, well, maybe it's not as much as the earth signs, right? But certainly for a fire sign, you understand hard work. And there is a certain amount of hard work that needs to happen outside of you, but more of the hard work is about shifting what's going on here within. And that might be dealing with frustration and dealing with disappointment, dealing with not getting what it is that you wanted, and having to, in some way, go back to the drawing board. At the risk of pissing you all off, I say that this is character building stuff. But I'm sure, like me, you're probably all sick of character building stuff and would just like some nice things now. But maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what you're missing here in the journey. Like, things are better, things are nicer. But the work is never done. And maybe it might be a little easier if you could stop being so attached to the outcome and pay attention to the process that's going on in front of you. Right, I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. If you'd like to join me over there, you're very, very welcome to do so. We're going to pull May apart a little bit more and try and get to the root of what it is that you're missing, I think, as far as the journey is concerned. And see if we can't help you navigate that energy a little bit more easily, rather than having to wait, get yourself stuck in an intractable emotional mess before you finally sort of pick yourself up by the scruff of the neck and go, right, I've got to do it this way. Let's see if we can't ease that way for you a little bit more. So, know that I love you all very, very much. I'll see you soon.